welcome to our DTV video magazine. We'll have three goals in this tape. First, to show you some graphics that are representative of what you'll get on our multi-disc stock art graphic sets. Second, we'd like to demonstrate the techniques that we have used to create finished graphics. In fact, while I'm talking, let me show you some examples. Our third goal is to illustrate the use of D-Paint to create graphics. Now, I don't claim to be the world's greatest expert on deluxe paint, and you may well see me doing some things that you could have done better. But I have yet to watch over someone's shoulder as they worked with D-Paint without learning something, and I hope you learn some things as you follow along in this tape. We've tried in the tape to show you, as much as we possibly can, of the actual processes, step by step, that we use to create the graphics such as those you're watching. The result is a tape that's almost 2 hours long. What's the best way to use it? Well, the stop, play, pause, fast forward, and rewind buttons give you a lot of freedom. But then, as fellow videographers, you know that if you weren't aware of the potential of distributing programming on tape, you wouldn't be watching this. But if you'll forgive some philosophizing here, the tape in general combines the excitement and value of moving images with the freedom of reading a book. The freedom to stop, put it away, and restart later, to skip around, to see things over and over so as to absorb them better, even in the case here, to follow along on your own Amiga. As videographers, we may sometimes envy big-time broadcast TV, but maybe we shouldn't. Maybe it's we who have the real neat stuff and the fun, and I'm sure you see from this tape that we like to have fun with our graphics, and we hope that you'll have some fun with them too. Also, as videographers, you know that the bread and butter of desktop video are things like industrial tapes, commercials for cable TV, weddings and other event videos, point-of-purchase video, those sorts of things. The images you're watching obviously aren't of the Super Bowl halftime commercial quality, but they aren't meant to be. They're meant for desktop video. I might also note that some of this, as you watch it, is 4th generation or more and is intended for demonstration purposes only. As you probably have, I've seen videotapes about using the Amiga. Typically they come in sets of 4 tapes, each 30 minutes long and costing $30. And they go to a lot of trouble to make the tapes look like broadcast TV shows.
We've decided to try to keep this production as simple and informal as possible and concentrate on content, rather than spending our time and energy doing things like editing in over-the-shoulder shots of me sitting at the computer. We want to get right to the heart of things and show you how we do the kind of things you've just seen. So from now on, you'll be seeing very little of me and a lot of Deluxe Paint screens.
When you start to work from the art on the discs yourself, make sure and work from a backup, not from the original discs. I prefer to work from a RAM disk myself. Select Interlace, 16 colors, and overscan. Load the picture, temple.vid. Notice, first of all, the palette, the colors are scaled. That gives us the ability to, for one thing, load in other pictures with similarly scaled palettes and combine them to this picture to create a collage, which is exactly what we're going to do. First, though, change the screen format to screen size so that later we can create an animation. Load the brush, cassette.vid, and right now let's press F10 to get the menus out of the way. From now on, work mostly from the keys. Press Z to turn it on its side, and in interlace mode we'll have to resize it to make it proportional. Hold down Shift and press Z. Make it approximately the size of the building there, a little bit narrower. Before stamping it down, press J to jump to the spare page and stamp it down there. We're going to work on it a little bit more. Press B on the keyboard, and using the right mouse button, pick up all of the cassette except the little piece of tape. Go back and stamp it down over the building. Jump back, get the piece of tape, pick it up using the right mouse button, press X. Jump over. What we want to do is put it there, but you see it looks like it lays on top of that stone, so jump back, put it back down, jump back again, press B twice this time, and we'll pick up an irregularly shaped brush of the stone. When you come back to the place you started, it automatically picks it up, or you can press spacebar to pick it up. Jump back, stamp that down so it's saved. Press B again using the right mouse button. Pick up the piece of tape, jump back, stamp it down, jump back, using the right mouse button. Pick up the stone, jump back and stamp it down in exactly the place we picked it up from. There we get the feeling that it is in front of the piece of tape. Press F10 again, pick up one of the smaller drawing tools, and press V to draw in straight lines, and we'll put a couple letters on the tape, label. Press D to go back to regular drawing mode. We'll make a B. Press V again for straight lines and make a nice Z. Press F10 again, and now load the brush Mummy 2.vid brush. Jump back over and stamp it down toward the bottom of the screen. Press B twice to pick up an irregularly shaped brush, and using again the left mouse button, go around the mummy's hand except where the stick is, and pick up just his hand. Then stamp it over here out of the way. Load the brush Umbrella 1.vid brush. And we'll put an umbrella in his hand. You can see how these images combine well because they all have a scaled palette. Using the right mouse button, pick up the hand, stamp it over, and press B. Use the right mouse button. Pick him up and jump back over and stamp him down somewhere where he'd look nice in the foreground. About right there. Please excuse me if I seem to be going too fast, but we have an awful lot of ground to cover, and I hope that through the miracle of video you'll be able to use rewind and pause to go back over the parts and make sense of those which seem to go by too quickly. Now, take our brush and making sure that we have it exactly where we stamped it down, press J and stamp it right in the same position on the spare page. We'll use him in a little bit again later. Go up and load another brush. This time the brush M Fly Machine, and M stands for male usually in my brushes. Press H to make him half size, and in fact I don't know, equal sign just to make him a tad bit bigger because he's going to fly in an animation in front of the cassette but behind the umbrella. So hold down Alt, press Z. That enables us to hold this brush at the very left edge of it. Now go to the animation menu, set the number of frames to 50. Move our brush of the flying machine to the far right side where it's almost off the screen. Stamp it down and press U to get rid of the image that we stamped because the Deluxe Paint will draw that first frame. Hold down Shift and press M and set the distance to -500, the X distance, and press Draw. Little time lapse there as it went through the tedious time-consuming portion of the drawing. Now it's done, and let's press 4 to see the man flying across the screen. It looks fine, except of course it does fly across the front of the umbrella. We want him flying in back. This is where our spare page comes in handy. Select Spare from the picture menu and merge in front. Select all frames. And what Deluxe Paint now will do is go to the spare page, get the image there, and put it in front of all the frames of our animation. Once again, we time lapse to the last drawing of the last few frames, and soon our animation will be finished and our demonstration of how using a scaled palette we can combine a lot of dissimilar images together to make a rather interesting looking collage. What we've done here is taken the collage we just created and experimented with it a little, using it with titles added as the background for a crawler which moves across the screen, making an ad for our MBZ stock art disc sets. The art on these discs, a few images from which you see here, are like spare parts which you can combine together with your own images and ideas using the kinds of techniques we're practicing in this tape to construct graphics of your own. The disc sets include pictures for backgrounds, brushes of all kinds of images, most of them with the palette spread so that they're easy to combine together, ready-made titles, anim brushes of people and animals, and even complete anim fonts. We'll show you more from the stock art discs sets later in the tape. The crawler you're watching is being played by the utility MBZ Crawl, which you'll find on disc A of your sample disc set. It's written in the director language, and source code is provided for the director programmers among you. Using DPaint, MBZ crawl, and our collage making techniques, you can make your own graphics crawl over your own backgrounds. So, after watching a bit more of this, we'll go back to Deluxe Paint and see exactly how that's done, starting with a new background for our new crawler. And while I have a moment, let me remind you that it's important for you to fill out and send in the user registration card which came with your tape and discs. Load the picture MBZ crawl bakg.vid. It's the picture we'll use for the background of the crawler. Notice that the screen is in the background color. That way you can genlock live video into it or put graphic images in there. We will do the latter, so load the brush, F with tray, dot high brush. This is a high resolution brush, so we'll have to resize it to make it proportional and to make it fit into the screen. Press Shift Z and holding down the left mouse button, move to the left and resize it. Still needs to be a little smaller. Stamp it down in the screen. Press B twice to allow us to pick up in a regular shape brush, and we'll remove the things she's holding on the tray. Because we're going to put our own images there. And then the last button push is the right mouse button, which picks up the image and moves it from this screen. Now press B once and we'll pick up the tips of her thumb and finger. Press J. We'll jump over here and save the tips of the fingers for later. Jump back. Now we're going to be doing some remapping. So let's change the palette a little bit first. Press P. Let's change the background color to greatest amount of blue and none of either red or green. This will pretty much ensure that none of our new picture or brush will be remapped to the background color. Now let's take out, or let's change the brightest color to a white and spread it to black. That way we have shades of gray. Okay, now let's load another brush. This time load the brush called Reel to Reel. Again, it's a high resolution brush and we'll have to resize it to make it proportional. But as you can see, it's in the negative. This brush was drawn or digitized, whatever, with a different palette, so it'll have to be remapped. Go to the brush menu again. From Change Color, select Remap. And what happens is the program searches for the best matches in the current palette and changes the image so that it's usable to be combined with the images we have. Stamp it down there on her tray. Let's do the same thing with another brush. This time get the brush W-V3250, which is a designation of a Panasonic video camera. Resize it to make it proportional. Remap it so it will be combined with the pictures in this palette. And after it's remapped, jump over and stamp it down. We'll just need to pick up part of the tripod there, about there, and put it down on the tray. The Deluxe Paint manual doesn't discuss remapping too much, but it's extremely important. I really don't care for the analogy of painting too much. You don't really paint. What you do is change the colors of pixels that are already there, and the palette is all important. Let's jump over, get the fingertips again, and as a finishing touch, put them back. Press P and we'll change our palette back to having considerably more red in it. And we have a nice looking picture for the background of our crawler. One more thing we should do is change the background color to something much less saturated and more neutral before we save this picture. Now we have the background, but how do we create the images that will crawl across the screen? Let's load another picture. MBZ crawl blank .vid. And now what we have here is a sort of a template for, press dot to get rid of the fingertips there, creating your own crawler. Now this allows 4 rows of lines of the crawler, and the crawler program will load 2 of these pictures, so you have 8 lines, which takes about 2 minutes to go across the screen. It can take quite a while, as you saw earlier in the demonstration. To give you an idea of how to do this, let me press J, jump back to the picture we had, and load an example, which is the crawler that I had crawling across the screen in the demonstration. You can see this probably looks familiar. I hold down Control and press up arrow, change positioning so you can see the whole thing. You can combine text and graphics and anything you can put in DPaint and have it crawl across the screen. So let's jump back over to the blank one, and as an example, press F10 and the right mouse button on the A to get us into text mode. I have already changed the font directory to my ZumaFonts directory, and I'm going to use a Swiss font here. Let's select for typing this color. We really need a clear screen. Let's jump back over. Shift K clears the screen. Press T to enter text mode. Stamp down the text box. Return. Press Escape to exit text mode. Press B to pick this up as a brush. Hold down Control and press the down arrow so we can see the colors here a little better. Pick the next highest color. Press O to outline the brush in that color. Stamp it down. Press F, and using the right mouse button, fill each letter with the background color. Then we'll press B, pick this up as a brush, press the left bracket key, which advances the color by 1, then O to outline it in the new color, left bracket, O, repeat that until we get to next to the last color, and press Shift K to clear, and you see that we have a rather interesting effect for the text. Let's stamp that down. Press B to pick up the first line. Jump over. Press F10 to get rid of the menus, and Control plus up arrow. Jump back. Get the second line. stamp it down and save the picture as MBZ crawl1.vid. We've exited the Lux Paint and the CLI, and we've typed projector MBZ crawl.dtr.film, which projector is the director's program for running programs. First thing it asks is what file to use as the background, and we type in the name of that file, loads it, asks the name of the crawler file, type in MBZ crawl1.vid, the file we just saved, and asks us for the name of the second crawler picture. In this case, for demonstration purposes, we'll just type in the same name again. See the program begin with our background, and soon the crawler which we created will begin to move across the screen. Well, this demonstration brings up the subject of fonts and titles, which we'll go into detail about a little bit more very soon.
Also, we're including advertisements in the tape, but not for Pepsi or Coke or laundry detergent or something, but for items which you as a videographer should be interested in, especially things that we have found useful ourselves.
The right music soundtrack can often add the perfect finishing touch to your production, but finding good music that you can use isn't always easy. We have discovered Pro Background Theme Music from QCCS Pro Arts. These professionally produced broadcast quality music selections are royalty-free. The right to use the music in your productions is included in the purchase price. Pro Background Theme Music is appropriate for all of your video production needs, including weddings, social events, and film transfers. We offer selections in the Contemporary Variety category, as well as music for weddings and other soft mood productions. Pro Background Theme Music is recorded on high-bias chrome audio cassettes which carry a 2-year guarantee from the manufacturer. We like the Pro Background Theme Music line. Our company has at least a dozen production music tapes, but the Pro Background line is definitely a cut above the rest. Video producers who watch our productions often ask us where we got our music. One of our own producers says that the Pro Background line is the best production music library he has heard. We believe in this line enough to use music from the Contemporary Variety and Soft Moods categories in our custom graphics catalog. We believe you can use the Pro Background Theme Music too.
We're back in Deluxe Paint again, and I've loaded our crawl background picture. We want to add some text to it, but before we do, we have to fill in the background behind the woman and her equipment. Using the right mouse button, click on the fill icon and select gradient fill. We also have to have made sure, of course, that the range covers the colors that we need. Now let's press F10 to get the menus out of the way. Hold down Shift and press R. Position the cursor so that the subsequent rectangle that we're going to draw, a filled rectangle, will cover the whole screen. Here's something about Deluxe Paint that is very, very nice. We can use the mouse and the keys at the same time. So press J and it still works. It jumps to the spare page and begins to draw a filled rectangle. I might add, while this is drawing, might add to what Stephen just said about the music, that all the music on this tape is from the QCCS music libraries. And when that's finished, we'll Jump back. From the spare menu, select Merge and Back, and we have a nicely filled background. Now let's pick up, press B, pick up the corner of the TV, jump over, Shift K clears the screen, save this, we'll need it later. Now load the brush, poster parts, and we'll make a poster. Let's see, let's press B, get the bottom half of this with the right mouse button, pick it up. Now press V, so that that stands for vector. Now we'll be drawing in a straight line. Hold down the left mouse button and pull the bottom part straight down. Screw that up. We have a nice poster. Except that perhaps we might want this to be the bottom. No, I like the other way better. Anyway, this gives you an idea of how you can use these poster parts to make a nice background for text. I've typed some letters and I'm stamping them onto our background as text, but you'll notice that they look pretty ragged, pretty jaggy. Let's try to do something about that. Press F10 and M to magnify. Have a close look. The difference between the white and the black is the contrast is sharper, the edges are blocky. We can anti-alias that by providing a little range between the black and the white to smooth it out. Pick that up as a small brush and stamp that down along the edge there, and you see that smooths that outline quite a bit. Do the same thing on the other side. You can jump back and forth between drawing with the brush and with just a dot by pressing dot and choosing an intermediary color, and that finishes out and we have a much straighter line. Press down arrow, press Shift B to get our brush back. By using X, Y, Z keys, in this case Y, we can turn the brush upside down and on its side to do the rest of the letter. We won't do the whole thing, but you can see the contrast very sharp indeed. Now press M, go down and have a look at the B. It'll be a little different. Press Z to turn this on its side and X to reverse it, and press U, move that back a little further. Then dot to draw with our intermediary color to get the edge. Z, Shift B to get the brush, so make a little stake there, and Z turns on its side, Y turns it upside down. See, the B is rounded off nicely. This can be a kind of a time-consuming process, but if you just have a few letters to do, press M, it makes them look much nicer. Now pick up a poster. We won't go to all the time-consuming deal of changing all the letters. Press F10 so we get a good look at where it's going to go, and stamp it down over here. Jump back, get our corner of our picture, put it back. Notice that these are kind of jaggy too. We can do the same thing here to smooth those out. It's one drawback to working with interlace. The jaggies will be a little bit more prominent, but what looks real jaggy on your computer monitor, pressing left arrow to move, isn't going to look necessarily that bad on video, of course, because video acts in its own way to smooth out the jaggies. See, it looks quite a bit better. Okay, going on and forward with titles and fonts, we're changed to high res, 8 colors, and clicking on the text icon, we see that we've loaded the font dot sign. Press T, stamp that down, and press F10 to get rid of the menus. Press spacebar, and typing in spaces in this case gives us a grid upon which we can work. Escape to get out of text mode. Let's notice a couple things about this font. First of all, it's a color font, and you will have had to load the program Color Fonts and have it running in the background to use this font. Second thing we'll notice is that we've turned on chords in the preference menu so that we can see at what point the screen on the screen we are. And let's press M and notice that from dot to dot is a distance. See, 428 and 452. If we were to subtract that, we'd see it's 24 pixels from one dot to the next. We don't actually have to do that. We can press down in a straight line. It tells us that we have moved 24 pixels. Press U to get rid of that. So let's go to the grid icon using the right mouse button. Get the requester. Set the X spacing to 24. That's going to come in handy for various reasons, since we know that this font, press M, is symmetrical. One other interesting thing about this font is that it could be animated in at least a couple different ways. So let's create an animation. Set the number of frames to 8. The information bar up here tells us that we're at frame number 1. Press 2. Let's go to frame number 2. So you need to type in some text. Make sure you have caps lock. Press down. Escape to leave text mode. Press 2 twice to skip a frame and go to the next frame. Again, escape. Press 2 twice. T. Start back here. Escape. 2 twice to skip a frame, go to the next frame. And about there. Okay, and escape again. Now we should be on frame 8, the last frame of our animation. Go back to the animation requester and choose set number. Change it to 11. That will copy frame 8 to 9, 10, and 11, the new frames. Get rid of our menu bar, move that out of the way. Hold down Shift and press 1 to move to the first frame. Now, one more thing we want to do is go back to the animation requester and set control to the rate of 2 frames per second. It's more of a really of a slideshow type thing than animation, but you'll see how it works here in just a moment. Press spacebar to stop it. Now let's do something a little bit more complicated in the way of an animation. We'll be using this font as sort of an anim font. Press B. Pick this up. Press H to make it half the size it is. Jump over to the spare page. Stamp it down. Jump back. Press Shift 1 to go to the first frame, and then pick up the word by in the same way. The grid feature makes it easy. Press H, J, jump over. Okay, I've completed the process, got all our text, made it half size. Let's jump back to the animation and delete all the frames. Because this frame is half size, change the grid requester to 12. Press T and again the space bar to make a blank grid. Escape and B to pick those up. Clear the frame again and press H to make it half size, and we can turn the grid off now. Not yet. Turn it back on. And you'll see why we need the grid. It enables us to make a grid along the bottom of the screen, and we'll be putting our letters on it as an anim font. So jump back over, get the first group. Now we can turn the grid off. Jump back, holding down Alt and Z. We can set this, set the handle to the left corner. And once again, let's create some frames for an animation. Set number, this time, let's try about 200. Stamp the very left edge of the brush down on the first row there. Press U to erase it and go to Shift M. I know you can't see this too well, but the X distance is minus 1200, which will move from the right to the left. The count is 100, which would mean that we're going to be moving 12 pixels per time that it draws this. And remember that these are 12 pixels apart, so that should do it. Okay, it's about finished now, and what it's been doing is taking our brush and drawing it at every 12 pixels to create an animation. Now when it's completely finished here, let's jump back over, get the word art. You probably guess what we're going to do, Alt Z, J. Now go to Shift 1, using 2 will move ahead. 2 key. Well, it's a little too far. And we will follow this up with the word art. It's important to get that position as carefully as you can. Shift down. Tell it to draw. 12, still the same coordinates. Okay, I've added the word from and made it draw in the same way, and we see the results. Now, you don't have to be limited to the letters in the font. Press T to give us a blank area. Press comma and pick up the red. Press F for fill. Make an arrow. B to pick it up. Now press X. Let's turn it the other way. Jump over. Press H. And press 3 to go to frame about 67. Alt Z. I'll go one more frame. Press 2 to go one more frame. Stamp it down. And draw it. Unlike real red dot signs, we don't have to be limited to just red dots because we have Amigas. So I've loaded the clapboard picture from the sample disc, remapped it, and I'm in the process of resizing it. Outline it with a dark color, and pressing Shift R will white out the center there to give us some room to write something. Go about to 077 and move the handle, stamp it down, and start drawing. Dot, del, comma to pick up the background color. Now we have a blank screen. Press 5 and we can see it play one time.
Let's stop for a moment again to talk about another video-related product.
Is this a familiar sight? Unless you only use tapes once, you're going to have to relabel your videotapes sometime. New videotape labels are expensive, they're hard to keep track of in the office, and they build up on a tape because they're not removable. We use Scotch brand relabel tape instead of blank videotape labels on our work tapes. Relabel tape is convenient. It comes in a handy dispenser and has a built-in label length gauge for your VHS tapes. Relabel tape allows you to easily replace outdated labels without buildup on your video cassettes. It is removable. Relabel tape is a must for your location shooting. One dispenser contains over 58 feet of tape, yet fits easily in your equipment bag. Stay organized without a mess with relabel tape.
Now let's do a little bit more on titles and remapping. Here I've loaded the picture Rose and Lace, which makes a nice background for text, and I cut out an irregular shaped brush of the rose. The wedding disc sets have a couple of useful examples of ready-made titles using this background. By sort of colorizing the picture, we can demonstrate more about remapping. First, let's change the screen format to 32 colors because we're going to need a sort of a second palette. Right now, all the pictures all the colors in our picture are in these first 16 colors. Press P. So let's change those to red. Change these to red. Because what we want to do is force depaint to remap our brush into these colors. So we'll make those a range of colors that we know are in the brush. Okay, now the colors that were in our picture are all red. That's why the picture's all red. Let's load the brush again. I had saved it, the brush that I cut out, and say remap it. What we'll do is remap it to these colors. Now let's load the picture, the original picture, Rose on Lace. Do not change it to 16 colors, leave it as 32. And it looks like it's about the same rose, but it really isn't. It's drawn in these colors now, which you'll see when we stamp it down and change the colors that make up the rose. When we change those colors, only the rose is changed to red. The rest of the picture is still mapped in these colors. Let's change them to a little bit now. Well, and give them a greenish cast. Dot, del to get rid of the cursor, and we have a nice background, sort of a colorized background for our text. Now we're going to create an animation using an anim font. To do this, we'll need 32 colors, interlace, screen, so change your screen format to that. And first of all, we'll load an anim brush. In this case, FWK1. Now, an anim font really isn't a font. It is a collection of separate anim brushes, each of which is of a letter, punctuation mark, or number. Change color to brush palette, and in this case it's an anim brush. It will change to the palette. And let's have a look at the settings of our anim brush. 53 cells duration. So let's set some frames for our animation, and let's make them about 75. We begin, as you can see, in frame number 1. Let's go forward a couple of frames to frame 3. Our anim brush is at frame number 1. You can move forward using the 8 key, move backward using the 7 key. Shift 7 always takes you back to the first frame of your anim brush. Stamp it down over here toward the left of the screen. Press U as always to get rid of that first one. Shift M to look at the requester. We don't want it to go 75, we only want it to go 53, which is the duration of the anim brush. So this will paint our anim brush down 53 frames. For the distance, this is going to be our firework font, and this is going to be the first firework. It's going to go to the left, so make that about -12. Let's preview it. You get an idea of what it's going to do. Press spacebar to stop the preview and start drawing. It's finished drawing, and we have a nice one there exploding as a firework. But if you recall the demonstration of these earlier, we had 2 colors of fireworks. Well, the anim brushes only come in 1 color, so to create 2 colors we'll have to go back to remapping. So press P, we'll look at the palette here. This is the palette in which the fireworks, or part of the palette in which the fireworks are drawn. So copy that blue over to here, this blue over to here, spread them. Now let's copy red to the palette, part of the palette in which our fireworks are drawn, and you begin to get the idea of what's going to happen. Our firework is now drawn in red and actually some white. Let's choose a brush, tell it to remap. What's going to happen, and this takes some time, is, and if you do this yourself, don't imagine that your computer is locked up. It's remapping that whole firework font into this row of colors. And I might point out that if you buy our disc set of stock art, it contains the complete firework anim font. You can see now that it's remapped to blue. Let's press 4 again, watch to play, and the original one is in red that we changed it to. Now let's go to frame 21. Go to the opposite side of the screen. Stamp down the first part of our cell of our anim brush again. Shift M. We'll make this one fade to the right and start drawing. Okay, let's see what we have so far. Now let's load another anim brush. This would be FWK 9. And again, let's remap it to this second palette, or second part of the palette. Now that the remapping's done, let's go to, about frame 9. Stamp it down there, and about -5, and draw. Okay, as it finishes up drawing, what we'll do next is remap it back to something like the original palette that we started with. Go to about frame 15 or so. Stamp it down. Make it go to the right. Start drawing. Now it's going to look like all the colors are the same. In reality, though, 2 of them are drawn in these first few colors. The other 2 are drawn in these. So let's play with the colors a little bit and see what we can come up with. Exchanging the red settings for the blue. And you see that those 2 are affected when we change this range. And the other 2 are affected when we change that range. So we can actually have room here if we weren't going to use these gray ones for something else, which we'll do in here in a little while. We have room in the palette here to make 4 different colors of fireworks. Let's see what this looks like finished then. The remapping, if you haven't done it much before, is a little bit difficult to grasp the idea, but it is extremely useful in creating your graphics. As a little finishing touch here, take the round drawing tool and the white, starting from the beginning, go to the very start of the explosion of a firework, position the dot over it, go back a frame, and stamp down the white circle, back a frame, using the 1 and 2 keys to go forward and backward. Get the last one here, and that will add the look of an explosion a little bit as each firework goes off. The next thing to do would be to add a little background. Load the picture church.vbru, and that's a picture of a church remapped to it could be used in other things as well, but it's particularly useful here to have the fireworks going off over a church if you wanted to use this as the date of a wedding, for instance. So jump over to the spare page, first position it where you'd like it to be, jump to the spare page and stamp it down, jump back and instruct Deluxe Paint to merge in front Actually, in this case, front or back really wouldn't matter. And all frames. And it will begin to take the image from the spare page we talked about earlier and stamp it down on every frame of our animation. This takes a while, so we'll wait till it's finished. Okay, it's almost finished here. As soon as it is, we'll play it. And you can imagine, for instance, it's so easy to change the colors in the palette that it'd be quite easy to have fireworks going off in the colors of your client's wedding. Stop it right there. Go back to Shift 1 to take us back to the beginning. Go to the first explosion. You know, if those were real fireworks, that'd be a bright light, and it would brighten the scene here. So there is a way for us to do that. Let's take a color, a couple shades or 3 lighter than the roof is now. Press F for fill, and lighten the press M for the image, press D to draw again in this brighter color. And just make everything a little lighter. Of course, we could go and draw that 4 times, but for every one of the 4 explosions. Instead, let's press G, pick it up as a brush, Alt X to hold it by the corner here is helpful. Hold by the lower right corner. I might also note here at this point that pressing Shift B with different shift keys toggles back and forth between the brush and the N brush. Okay, using the 2 key, we go forward to find the frames where the explosion starts, stamp it, stamp down the lighter roof in each one. Oops, going past that one. Dot. And 4 again to watch our animation. Things you can do with the firework font, you could add little red rocket trails before the fireworks go off. I actually had saved just the 1991 part without the church, so let's load that and I'll show you something else you could do, which is add a different sort of a background. Here I've loaded the picture billboard background as a brush, remapped it to the current palette, stamped it down at the bottom of the screen. I'll change some of the colors to give it a red look, and once again merge it in back of all frames, and soon when it's done we'll be able to see the fireworks exploding over a different background. And I've changed the colors of the fireworks a little bit also. These graphics were created by genlocking digitized images onto live video. I should point out that the live video is available from us on tape, along with other live video footage you can use as backgrounds. We dub it from our Super VHS raw footage, so the VHS copy you get is equivalent to first generation VHS. Now let's do something similar to this using digitized backgrounds. Once again, load the picture billboard background from sample disk B, this time as a picture rather than as a brush. Like the rose and lace background, this has been colorized a little from original black and white digitization. Make sure that screen format is set to screen size so that we can be sure that we can use it as an animation later. I've typed in some letters here so I can put some text into the billboards, but as you see, the perspective isn't right. So let's fix the background so that changes we make won't mess it up, and enter the perspective mode. The easiest way to do that is to press enter on the keyboard, not carriage return, but rather into the enter key on the numeric keypad is what you use to enter perspective. Similarly, press the dot key or the period key on the numeric keypad to center the perspective, and we'll put it lower down than the default, which is in the center of the screen. By pressing numeric keypad keys, we can change the perspective which the Deluxe Paint will use to paint the brush. So press 4, the 4 key on the numeric keypad. You can see a little wireframe box change shape as its perspective begins to be to match that of the billboard frame. Use the left mouse button to stamp it down, and it's drawn. But you can see very jaggy. Go up here to the perspective menu, choose settings. You can see that we can turn anti-aliasing on to help get rid of those jaggies. Let's set it to high. Okay. Press B and use the right mouse button to pick this one up. Remember, we've fixed the background, so we're only picking up the changes that since we fixed the background. The M again. Press enter to turn perspective on and begin drawing. We'll see what happens. Well, at first not too much happens. The price for anti-aliasing is paid in speed. This takes a while, so we'll wait till it's finished. And we find that it does look quite a bit better than the non-anti-alias version. Press M. We can see that Deluxe Paint did something automatically that we did earlier by hand, that is, put in the sort of bridging colors in places from the white to the black. Let's get rid of that. Let's just imagine that we don't want text, although that would make a nice logo or whatever, 3 different letters. And let's say we want to put graphics in those frames now, and for inexplicably, for some reason, we've decided we want a picture of a rather ordinary looking middle-aged man to go in one of them. Luckily, there's one right on our disk, so let's get this off of here and jump over and size this guy down a bit. Press enter to turn perspective on. Stamp him down. We'll anti-alias him, and this will take a while too, so we'll wait till it's finished. Not bad. But what if we want moving images in our billboards? Let's load an anim brush, the one called Chatter Teeth, and it looks good. In fact, it sort of fits in there, but I would rather have it pointed at the guy's head, the teeth. So wouldn't it be nice if we can take this anim brush, which moves like this, as we see by pressing 8, and turn it around by pressing X. Well, some transformations which work on regular brushes do also work on anim brushes, and X, Y, and Z will turn anim brushes the same way that they turn regular brushes. But you can see it doesn't look that good as far as perspective. Will perspective work on anim brushes? Press enter And let's go up and set some frames. 20 frames, which is the number of cells in the chatter teeth, and in brush. We'll have to make that a bit smaller to fit in there, and the way we do that is hold down Shift and press the apostrophe key. Go down up and turn the anti-aliasing off, because for one thing we want to check quickly how it's going to look, and for another, anti-aliasing isn't going to make much difference in the case of an anim brush, because it's moving and you're going to see those jaggies. You won't have time. Could be a tad smaller. Press U to erase it. Hold down Shift, apostrophe. Press Shift 7 to make sure we're at the first frame of the anim brush. Press Shift 1 to make sure we are at the first frame of the animation. Draw it down there, and it looks good. Press U to erase that. Shift M. And draw. It's finished drawing. Pressing 4, have a look at it. Not bad. Putting another one over here is as easy as pressing X to reverse the brush, which I've already done. Let's press Shift 1 to go back to the beginning, and press 2 to go along so that our two chatter teeth will not be in sync, and then press Shift 7 to make sure we're at the first frame of the chatter teeth. Looks good, and so we'll draw. And it's all done. Hey, not bad. Hey, maybe someday you'll decide to do a remake of that song, Everybody's Talking at Me, and you could get that guy's face out of the middle when there and Jen Lockier's in as you sang. It'd be perfect, right? Except that every music video needs a Statue of Liberty in the parking lot, or maybe your great-great-grandfather with a lightning bolt outfit on his head, or Atlas holding a tennis ball under a partly cloudy video sky. And speaking of tennis balls, let's have a look at a picture which we can use to illustrate de-dithering an image. Here's the original digitized picture of the tennis ball. You may, like me, find yourself wanting to remove an object from a complex background, and there are several ways to do it. The first impulse is often to press F and the right shift key to fill with the background color, but that seldom yields satisfactory results. So we'll press space to stop that. Another way is press period, and using the right mouse button you might trace around it with the background color, and that works fine, except that what are you going to do? You still got all this stuff out here. You might be tempted to use a bigger drawing tool, but that's pretty awkward. We'll press U. That method of tracing around it can work, though, if you fill, when you're done, with Alt F. And I'll start again. Oops. Go all the way around it and come back. Press F, but instead of using the right mouse button with regular fill, hold down Alt, and it does a different, uh-oh, I must have missed a part, so press D again. It looked like it was sort of leaking through over here, and sure enough, you have to go all the way around with the background color. Press F again, hold down Alt, and it's a different kind of fill. Still didn't get everything. It's easy to miss a place. See if that does it. And it does. Alt F fills to a boundary. Another way is to press B twice and use the irregular brush pickup to get the object. And once again we'll go all the way around and we're almost finished. Of course, when you click the last one where you started, it picks the thing up. If you don't hit that one exactly, you can of course press space, and space bar will lift up the object even if you don't click in that last click exactly the right spot. Yet another method may be useful when you have a fairly plain background and a very complex object where going around it is difficult. You can begin to fill with the background color and I'll go ahead and do that. But what you end up with is looks something like a tennis ball floating in some galaxy or something. So what you want to do is use fill to fill with the colors that you want to get rid of. So pick up those colors and fill with them. And then after filling with them, you can fill with the background color to get rid of them. Like so. This isn't the best picture to do this on, but you can get the idea that with several fills and unfills sort of, you will be able to get rid of all the leftover dithering there. And I guess you'll just have to trust me that eventually, after a couple more fills, we will get rid of the little dots, and this does leave a very good clear cutout of the image. This is the one saved to your disk.
We all know how important it is to protect our equipment from the elements. Well, it's just as important to protect ourselves from the elements. Gloves keep your hands warm, but make it hard to operate camera controls. Finger mitts are the answer. These gloves have a fold-over mitten for warmth, yet leave your fingertips free for those fine adjustments you just can't make in ordinary mittens or gloves. Finger mitts are made from quality materials with positive grip leather palms and thumbs, so you can hold on to slippery equipment. They are 100% wool with thinsulate lining. Since they're all wool, they'll keep your hands warm even when they get wet. Finger mitts have been used on assignment all over the world, including professional news reports from the North Pole, Greenland, and the Armenian earthquake. Pictured here in rag wool color, finger mitts are also available in camouflage, so you can use them in the woods as well as on the job. The next time you go out in the cold, don't just protect your equipment, protect your hands with finger mitts.
Here I've loaded the picture, stage 2. Change the screen format to 32 colors and page size screen. Now load as a brush the picture Mountain Snow, and pressing F10 and Control up arrow, position it so that the top of the mountain is right in the top of the empty part of the screen. Press J to jump to spare page and stamp it down over there. Press dot to go to draw and get rid of it as a brush, and pick up as a brush the upper and right portions of the outline of the stage. Now we're going to be using this to shade, so press P and we'll select a range of these first, or actually the second colors 2nd through 16, and now position it so that it's down and to the left of its original position, and then press J to jump back over, and we're going to stamp it down, but first press F5 and then the left mouse button, and you'll see that each time you press it, the area underneath, instead of receiving a picture or copy of the brush, is darkened like a shadow. Press J, spare, merge, and back. Now over here on the spare page, I've created a logo for my palette play program. Of course, you can use any kind of text or image you want to do the same thing that we're going to do here. Create an animation, set the frames to 50. Using Alt-Z, pick up, move the handle to the right side, and then just at the very left edge of the screen, position our brush, and before stamping it down, press F5 to make it a shadow. And Deluxe Paint will draw it as a shadow just as easily as it does a regular brush. So stamp it down, press U, Shift M, and let's move it about 170 to the right where it is. And as you see, it begins drawing it not as a regular brush as we've done before, but as a shadow, very faintly here at first. The way this works is that each pixel under the brush is changed from the current color that it is to the next color. So that in this case, since we have a palette that's scaled in this way, it's darkened. Press Shift 1 to go back to the first frame. And you can see our shadow move, but it's too faint, so what we'll have to do is stamp it down again and draw it again. We can draw it over as many times as we like, making it darker each time. So the result is a shadow moving from left to right across the screen. The next and final step in this particular part would is simply to press F1 to go back to drawing the brush in the normal way. Position it, in this case, above and to the right of the shadow. Stamp it down, and using the same coordinates, draw it. Now we have an animated title with shadow moving into the center of the screen. Let's do something just a little bit more complicated with the appearance of the word palette. Jump to make sure we are at the end frame of the animation. Press F5 again. Stamp this down. It's important to press U, or when Deluxe Paint draws that again, it will draw it twice, make it twice as dark in that last frame. Shift M. Let's change the coordinates here. Oops. Have it draw from the first frame to the last frame and put some spin on it. What we end up with is the shadow of something that's descending from above. Press F1 to go back to regular drawing, and we are at the last frame. Stamp it down where we want it to end up. Press U, Shift M. Now we'll change the coordinates, and the key thing is on the Z, what we add is as it's getting larger, or making it look like it's approaching us. Now we want to reverse that and make it get smaller as it's drawn, and also change the minus to positive number, and we also want to change the amount that it moves. We also want to change the Y, minus 50. Keep the spin the same, and I realize that for you beginners in Deluxe Paint, the intricacies of the move requester may seem a little bit daunting. My purpose here isn't really to teach you everything there is to know about animation, but mostly just to show how you can use F5 to create shadows for text or graphic images, and give you a look at how I would create a somewhat more complicated animation. And here's the finished product of the last part. I guess all that would remain to, well, it's a little bigger, to finish it would be to make it look as if the word play is coming from behind the outline of the screen. Looks good. Now let's add a few frames to the end. Just a couple. Press A to add another. With a circular drawing tool, it's easy to add a spotlight. Press the right mouse button this time, and that would make the colors beneath the... First we better press F5. That will make the colors lighter. Press minus to make it a tad smaller. Press F5, don't forget that. And we have a spotlight shining there in the corner of the screen. But let's get rid of that by deleting that last frame. And let's try something entirely different using those extra 32 colors we have over here. Remember those? Make a map, a palette that is a copy of the one on the left. Then change these to a color which we know is not in our picture, as we did before. Jump to the spare page and load as a brush our stage 2 picture. Then remap it so that it will be remapped to the last 16 colors in our palette. That done, let's jump back over, change our palette back to the way it was. And then stamp down our new outline exactly over the old one. And when we change the colors in that second 16, you'll see that it changes the outside frame. But as we go, press 1 to go backwards, only in that very last frame. Let's make the letters in palette play a little more colorful too. And wouldn't it be nice if, instead of having it jump from shades of gray to shades of blue, we could have the lights at the end go down gradually. I don't know of any way to change the palette in real time in DPaint, so we're not in Deluxe Paint anymore, but rather in the utility program Palette Play, which it comes on your disk. Palette Play works by keystrokes. Pressing spacebar gives us back the original palette. Pressing our lowercase r keystroke takes the red out, lowercase g takes the green out, lowercase b takes the blue out, capital R adds red, green, blue. Let's see what happens when we press E, F, V, Shift V, Shift F, Shift E. Those are the colors or the keys beside the RGB keys, and they take out or put in those colors. Pressing Z fades to black, Shift V from black. You'll notice that it's only affecting those second 16 colors. That's achieved by pressing the 4 key. Pressing the 3 key makes it changes effect only the first 16 colors. Pressing 0 makes the changes affect all the colors. Pressing 1 makes the changes affect every other color. A rather odd effect there. Odd and even on 1 and 2. Press 4 to just affect the frame. Fade them to black. Press 3 to affect the center of the screen. Take out everything but the red. By pressing G and B. And then fade that out. Press 4 and bring the crowd back. You'll have to just sort of mess around with this, pressing R, G, and B together to sort of learn what all you can do with it. So we do a very slow fade out. Run it from the CLI by typing projector, palette play, B.1 film. It asks you what file to display. This time, let's run an animation. It's capable of running animations. First question is asked if this is an anim file. Press A. We press A, it loads the anim file. We don't have a script this time, just press return. It asks the number of colors, 32. Then it allows you, using the arrow keys, to position the picture. Press enter when you have it where you want. Pressing R and B, get rid of both red and blue and leave only green. And you see when you press A, that whatever changes we make remain changed as the animation plays. Here I've loaded a text editor. I'm creating a script file. Palette play will read a script file and execute the characters as if they were keystrokes. And here I've alternated lowercase and uppercase Z's, which Z is the keystroke for fade to black and from black. Let's type EFV and see what happens when that's executed. In a space restores the screen, and then like that, GB, GB, GB. We should recall that that takes the green and blue out of the screen and leaves only red. Capital G, capital B would increase the green and blue level. And we'll save that. And when palette play asks us for the name of a script file, I type the name script, which is what I saved it under. Position ourselves here. And Shift 1 at the exclamation mark will play our script file as if we were pressing keys. Here's the EFV. And let's type 3, which means that whatever changes we make affect only the first 16 colors, i.e. the center of the screen. I'll leave it to you to figure out how this little demonstration was made using one of the pictures from your sample disc. I've used palette play to do the fades between pictures here.
By the time you see this, Palette Play version 2 will be finished. It has a lot of enhancements, including the ability to make your own map of the colors you want to be affected. The images you're seeing are a few of those on the disc sets, it's not all of which I have included in the earlier demos. Watching these, you probably can envision a lot of possibilities for combining them with your own images and creativity to build anims and collages. Of course, you can never have too much clip art, and especially backgrounds and anim brushes are valuable in building anims and collages. Well, we offer quite a few backgrounds for your collage, animation, and titling needs. Another good source is the Digital Vision's library of digitized pictures, a few of which you're seeing here used as examples. These pictures are available from us on disc. That last example there leads us into our final demonstration, and for that, let's do something sort of whimsical, combining two anim brushes on this background. Create a new rodeo event, the Midnight Cowboy Bareback Mule Riding. First, set screen format to screen and 32 colors. So we can create some animation pages, but first, let's change the palette to the grayscale you see here in the last 15 colors so that we can do some remapping of the anim brush. First of all, mule kick, load that, and you won't be able to see anything because the first 16 colors are all red, so remap it. By pressing the 8 key, we can step through and see what it does. Let's change the palette back so the first 16 colors are the way they were. And there's our picture back, but the mule doesn't stand out very well. That's why we wanted to remap it into two palettes. So let's make the background sort of blue, in the foreground, that is our mule in this case, sort of red. And he'll stand out a lot better there. We're going to load in a moment the brush M-Leap and have these two work together, but before we can combine them we've got to make some changes. First of all, press X and we'll turn the mule around. This takes a while, but X and Y both work on the anim brushes the same way they do on a regular brush. Okay, he's turned around. The next change we need to make to him is a little bit more difficult though. So clear the picture and create an animation of 8 frames. The reason we choose 8 is because there are 8 steps in the brush. Shift 7 takes him back to the first frame. Press F10, Alt Z to change the handle. Put him down in the lower right corner somewhere and stamp him down. Shift M and draw. And we can see him kick. The way we make him smaller, which is what we want to do here, is we'll have to pick him up in each frame
Press minus twice and stamp him back down. To facilitate that process, let's make the grid quite a bit larger and pick him up with the right mouse button. Press minus twice, stamp him back down. Press 2 to go to the next frame. Repeat the process. Step back to make sure that we're stamping him down in the correct place. 2 to go forward, stamp him down. Repeat the process for all 8 frames, and then pick it up again and make sure as you do that the box you're going to pick it up in is big enough to hold every frame of the animation. When it's picked up, then let's save it under the name Mule Kick Small, because we will need it later. Here I've loaded and remapped the Anim Brush M Leap. I'm going to draw it in an animation of 13 frames. You can see him jump there. We're going to put some clothes on him, I guess, so let's set a range there and press B twice, pick up part of his leg there. Press equal to increase it in size. Stamp it down, press F5 without moving it, press the left mouse button a few times to darken it. Then B twice. Go through the same procedure. F5. Darken it. Go to the next frame by pressing 2 and do the same thing again. Give him a pair of Bermuda shorts here. Guess that's not too common for cowboys, but this cowboy's a little different. We got the shorts all done. Now let's we could put cowboy boots on him too by picking that up and pressing Shift Z, and you see that using the same process you could put cowboy boots on him, but let's just leave him barefooted. And we do want to put a cowboy hat on him, so over here I've drawn a cowboy hat and used perspective to tilt it so that it could be used in various positions. Let's stamp it down on his head there and go to the next frame. And I don't know, tilt his head a little bit forward there, and so get that one. Go through all the frames and do that. And we have had him all dressed and got his hat on there. So let's pick him up as an Anim Brush. Make sure that he's going to fit there. Once again, in Deluxe Paint you can use the keys and the mouse at the same time, so pick him up. Stamp the first frame of the Mule brush down toward the bottom of the screen after having cleared all frames. And let's create an animation of about 12 frames. Load the dressed version of the man leaping, which we saved earlier. Stamp him down toward the bottom of the screen. Press 2 to go to the next frame. We'll sort of draw him in here by hand. 2 again. 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 Move him up to make him jump higher than he ordinarily really would. What we've done is to stamp down this last part, pick it up, and over here use it to finish up. So what we end up with is a 12-frame animation, the first 11 of which show our cowboy jumping onto the back of the mule. I've cleared frame 12. Now let's set the frames to 20, which will give us 8 copies of that last blank frame, enough to stamp down our mule kicking. So let's go to frame 12 using a 3 key. Press F10 so we can position our mule. Press 2 to go to make sure we've got him exactly where he should be. Go to use the 2 key to jump to frame 12, and there draw the mule, which we know is 8 frames long, the mule kicking. So we press 4 to see that we end up with the man jumping onto the mule, the man disappearing, and the mule kicking. Press the 3 key and go to frame 12. Press 1, you see the man lands on the mule and then disappears. Press J to go to the spare where we left the guy, remember, and 1, have him landing there on the mule in frame 12. Now we'll use move to make him be bucked off, but first go to the last frame and add some more frames by setting the number to, we'll say, about 32. Back to frame 13 where the mule's beginning to buck, stamp him down. In the move requester, set the number of frames to draw to 19, which is the remainder in the animation. Ease in will slow him up as he comes to the top of his flight. Y to 370 and X to -40 to get him to sort of go backward, and draw. Now from the last frame, let's add some more frames, about 25 more, which would be about 57. Load in the anim brush of the guy again and pick out this posture to have him fall back down. We're back about frame 25, go a little past that so we can start falling. And stamp him down up there. Reverse the coordinates so he's falling in the Y coordinate, and instead of ease in, it's ease out to make him start out slow and fall faster, and draw. In the last frame where he's drawn, which is about frame 50, back in using the anim brush again, press 8 to have him straighten up here. Go forward a frame, forward a frame. Let's go forward to 1 to make sure he's going to be standing in the right position. Okay, looks pretty good. So back to where we're ready to draw. Draw him down. And here again, we want to make sure he's going to be exactly the right spot. So go forward to frame 1, where he's supposed to be standing there. Back to where he's supposed to be drawn. I've merged the background picture behind all the frames. While mule events were never the most popular ones at the Wyoming State Fair, Bob did manage to win the most persistent cowboy award that year. Partners, time's running out here for VidZeen Volume 1. But all I have time left to do is tell you more about VidZeen Volume 2. It includes a complete font, block font, which has some interesting attributes. It can be resized, smaller with good results, and even resized a little larger. And it can look decent even as low as low-res 8 colors. And it can sort of be a foreground text, or a sort of background as well. There's a little title I made with shadows using this text, or this font. There'll be complete instructions and demonstrations for using the pinball pictures and the complete pinball anim font, which come on disc set 2. We're going to have a review of the program Scene Generator, and we'll include on the sample disc some pictures which were generated by that program. We want to show you how you can use those pictures in your graphics with Deluxe Paint. We're also going to have an example of a piece-by-piece animation like the book flying off the shelf. We want to put on some sound effects to go along with the graphics. We're talking about shooting some raw footage onto the master tape as stock footage so you can have a very early generation to use on your copy. Lots more things. But night is falling here in Indiana. I'm getting ready to go home. Instead of putting credits at the end, I'm going to show some screens listing the equipment we used to create the graphics and put this tape together. I want to acknowledge the help of some people. Dan Bull, Brad Beard, Heather Kuntz, Stephen Ball, the people at Lowry's, particularly the owners. And I want to thank you for your interest in the tape, and I hope to see you again in Volume 2.